I bet you weren't ready, at least to see me here solo. Mike Sempervive here with you for the next hour, talking professional wrestling and mixed martial arts. Okay, probably no mixed martial arts whatsoever. Just professional wrestling is what we're going to talk about, and we do that every single day here on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network. And no matter how you're joining me today, tune in iHeart, American Forces Radio, sportsbyline.com, over-the-air affiliates like the Mightier 1090, Sirius XM 156 via podcast or video streaming on Twitch or YouTube. I just want to say thank you for spending a little bit of time with me today. It's going to be a lot of time with me today. About a minute before the show was set to begin, I get a text. It's the boss man. I'm sick. Are you really sick? And then he kind of went on, and his conscience got to him a little bit, and I just don't want to review NXT. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, now granted, he is suffering with the Mucinex. He's high on that right now. Probably got some Robitussin, all these other things, and he's probably being a bigger child than either one of his actual children to deal with right now for his poor wife. So the best goes out to the boss man, and hopefully he feels better by tonight, where he can talk a little bit about what he thought of NXT with Dave Meltzer for subscribers over at WrestlingObserver.com. But we have a lot to get into today. Obviously, NXT Spring Breakin'. We can run that show down. Not literally. I mean, there were some good things on it, but there were some things we could run down and make fun of absolutely as well, too. The Wendy Chu segments going after all three members of Mandy Rose's crew there. That was certainly something to see. But we also have some other things coming up tonight. Dynamite from Baltimore, right outside Baltimore, UMBC. We have their lineup, everything set up for tonight's show. Chris Jericho and Santana in a grudge match. Wardlow against MJF's mystery opponent. And we'll run down that show, as well as some news coming out of pro wrestling, including Freddie Prinze Jr. looking to start his own wrestling promotion. A ton of stuff to get into. We will do so when we get back from break. Wrestling Observer Live.
AEW Double or Nothing is going to be taking place later this month, so I decided to bring back my trivia videos. That is right. Today we got AEW Double or Nothing trivia. Let's go ahead and play.
Oh my, how are you, everybody? Welcome back to the show. Mike Sempervive here, Wrestling Observer Live. We do this show right here for an hour at a time, but if you want us 24/7, you can find us on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at Sempervive. I'll probably be posting up some things about the Briscoe brothers and their assorted family members who have come over to do landscaping all over this neighborhood here, descending all at once. If you can hear that outside my house, which does not have great insulation. But if you want to, find out more about wrestling news and not landscaping news, you can do that at WONF4W. The broadcaster for this show is at Sports Byline USA. And if you love pro wrestling, at Mid-Atlantic Pod. That's my other little side piece there. If you want to talk to Bryan, you can. You want to give him some well wishes, I'm sure he would like that. At Bryan Alvarez. All sinused up right now. Ugh, just a bunch of gunk in there. Hopefully that didn't come from having to lead Oreo the Orca around doing all of those cameos over the last few days. So hopefully everybody's been taking advantage of that. It's pinned over at Bryan's Twitter for all the ways you can find out how to help Whale Scout and get a tax-deductible donation to a fully engulfed charity, endorsed charity. Filed with the government at least, so they seem to be official. It's a legitimate thing. They go out there and help the environment, and obviously you see what the environment's done to Bryan Alvarez. So you may just not want to get out there and actually help. Just dedicate the money, and they'll find people that can actually do the job for them. But Freddie Prinze Jr. wants to do a new job. Yeah, he's outlined his plan to start up his own pro wrestling promotion in the next 18 months, one that could see him potentially run up to 3 years while not making any money. And this comes from the front page of the WrestlingObserver.com website. The subject was first broached on a recent interview he did on Ariel Helwani's MMA Hour. On his Wrestling with Freddie podcast on Wednesday, he said he finally wanted to talk more about his dream of doing it. The promotion has yet to be named. This, written by Josh Nason, talks about how he started getting the idea to do some of this stuff. And as everybody knows, Freddie Prinze Jr. has been a longtime pro wrestling fan. He showed up at WWE events for a very short time. He was actually on the creative team. I'd have to go back and see what year that was. It was just a little blip on there. But how this whole thing started is he had the bug to start his own group when he helped out a friend who was working for an unnamed promotion that was looking to get a TV deal. After meeting with a promoter and understanding the product, Prinze agreed to help make some connections, even though he and the promoter came at things from two different philosophies. After meeting with the CW, he and the organization parted ways, and the group later got a deal, according to Prinze. But he said the experience was like being in a dream that he didn't want to wake up from, so he began outlining a plan for his own group. And I'll jump in here to say that I don't know of any group that got television with CW other than Dave Marquez's Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. And I believe that, I forget the name they gave it. I think it may have been Championship Wrestling. But it did appear on many CW affiliates around. It was on for a short period of here where I am and then faded out. So I'm not sure, how connected it is. But I would assume that was probably the promotion that Freddie Prinze is talking about here. He goes on to say that he began by talking to his accountant, who said he needed to start working again so he didn't dip into his savings he built up over the years when he was acting regularly. Hopefully his accountant is better than the accountant that Jim Crockett Promotions had when he walked into the office one day and told Jim Crockett, you don't have any money. And when Jim said, what does that mean? He said, well, you actually have less than no money. It's bad, hard times right now. So smart move by his accountant here, because this is going to be a money drain no matter what. And he apparently knows this. He went on to say that he fell in love with acting again, doing a romantic comedy for Netflix. He talked to podcaster Sam Roberts, who suggested he check out GCW. Sam Roberts, who's best known for being associated with WWE, has been a big GCW supporter. quarter, and apparently has pointed Prinze in that direction. From there, he started doing a deep dive into all kinds of promotions, listening to podcasts from Jim Cornette and wrestlers to understand their philosophies, talking to people involved in the business, and scouting local venues. And the article goes on for a little while here. He says he's already got a commercial realtor friend looking at properties as he hopes to have a full-time home for the group. He also says that he would like it to be a SAG member show, basically a union show. He wants the wrestlers to be able to become Screen Actors Guild members, entitling them to benefits that SAG members get, like insurance, like medical benefits, and retirement plans. And if anything is going to be the big chip that he has going for him, that's what it would be. If there is a way for professional wrestlers to get involved into a union where they may be able to build up equity or build up time so they can actually get benefits after they retire and medical and some things like that are a drain, obviously, on most pro wrestlers' bank accounts, especially independent professional wrestlers who have to keep themselves insured. You know, that's going to be a pretty big deal. You know, that's going to be the best thing that they have. He also says he's got enough money to go for over 3 years before he has to do another Scooby-Doo sequel. He kind of made that crack. But the opportunity or the chances of making money in 3 years, I mean, it's going to be tough. And it's going to be very interesting to see what he is able to pull off, if he's able to pull anything off. I mean, we've had big names talk about starting wrestling promotions for a long time, and some have tried, and most have failed. That's why a lot of people were not bullish on AEW, even with the names involved, even with getting TNT. I mean, how many secondary promotions have started up, and how many of them have, if not died, as most have, how many of them have run into a wall? Impact being a great example of that, with all the incarnations that they have. But it's fascinating. It's going to be really interesting, and it's going to be interesting to see, again, when it comes to the SAG stuff, even if he's able to get wrestlers who are on his show, you know, union, you know, I can see a lot of people saying, well, that's going to be great for the business. That's going to be open up the possibilities for other places. I don't think so. I don't necessarily believe that that's the case. It might, you know, help those actors, you know, those people, and may change some of their mentalities on how long they want to stay into wrestling, or if they're an independent wrestler, you know, they start looking a lot more into acting and trying to pick up gigs to help build and pad their guild status. But I don't know if this is going to be something where, even if it's successful minorly early, I don't know if that's going to affect the wrestling business at all. You know what I mean? Tony Khan knows how to deal with unions. He's in the NFL. He deals with unions on a regular basis. They have a very powerful union. Tony Khan could let unions in if he wanted to. Obviously, we know WWE. That story came up not long ago when Brooke Hogan was at that convention or whatever it was, and found out the reasons that the WWE isn't unionized. Yes, lady, it's your father that went ahead and put the kibosh on Jesse Ventura, rallying everybody up. I believe it was before WrestleMania 2, and Hogan was the one who dropped dime on him and blew the whole thing up, and it didn't end up happening, and we haven't had it since, even though people have been calling for it. But to me, that's the most interesting thing that really comes out of this, because for all of the great connections that I'm sure Freddie Prinze Jr. has, and he certainly does, and for all of the money that he's got at his disposal, you know, and he obviously has it at his disposal if he wants to spend it on professional wrestling. You know, it's where you get your TV and who you can get partnered with that can help you out with merchandise, that can help you out with marketing, and that can help you out with funding. And if he's got some people that can really believe in him, then maybe this thing has got a chance to get off the ground. But there is a lot of competition right now, a lot of competition. You know, AEW and WWE, AEW having Ring of Honor there as a way to kind of blow things up. They haven't even started that process yet. GCW is big, Defy on the West Coast. You see these big companies, and there's already a fight for time. And is this going to be good for the wrestlers? Yeah, it probably is going to be good for the wrestlers on weekends that Freddie Prinze does, and he's offering big money. But long-term, will it mean anything? History tells us it probably won't. But the best of Freddie Prinze, and we'll have to see what happens. We'll tell you what happened last night on NXT when we get back from break. Wrestling Observer Live.
Number 1. Who did Hangman Adam Page eliminate to win the 21-man Casino Battle Royale at AEW Double or Nothing 2019? A. Joey Janela, B. MJF, C. Orange Cassidy, or D. None of the above? The correct answer is MJF. Question number 2. True or false? At AEW Double or Nothing 2019, the Young Bucks defeated the Lucha Brothers for the AEW Tag Team Championship. The answer is false. While the Young Bucks did defeat the Lucha Brothers, it wasn't for the AEW Tag Team titles. It was actually for the AAA Tag Team titles. Question number 3. Who won the Casino Ladder match at AEW Double or Nothing 2020? A. Scorpio Sky, B. Darby Allin, C. Orange Cassidy, D. None of the above. The correct answer is none of the above. The winner of the Casino Ladder match was Brian Cage, who made his AEW debut that night. Question number 4. How many AEW Double or Nothing matches from 2019 through 2021 have received a 5-star rating? A. 0, B. 1, C. 2, D. 3. The correct answer is 1. And it was the first AEW Double or Nothing event in 2019. It was the match between Cody versus Dustin Rhodes. It received 5 stars. Question number 5. How many title changes have occurred between the 2019 Double or Nothing and the 2021 Double or Nothing? A. 1, B. 2, C. 3, D. 5 or more. The correct answer is 3. At Double or Nothing 2020, we saw Cody win the AEW TNT Championship after defeating Lance Archer. Hikaru Shida also won the AEW Women's Championship after defeating Nyla Rose that night. And at AEW Double or Nothing 2021, we saw Dr. Britt Baker defeat Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's Championship. Alrighty, that's a wrap for part 1 of the AEW Double or Nothing trivia. I will be back with a part 2. Enjoy the rest of Wrestling Observer Live.
Welcome back to the show. Mike Sempervive here with you. Bryan Alvarez on the disabled list just for today. Taking a little bit of time to drain the sinuses. Happy May the 4th be with you. Is that how that goes, Dom?
Close enough.
You want to do your Yoda impression, or?
No, I don't.
I knew you
Give me
wouldn't.
something to work with. You can't just put me on the spot and say something.
Well, I
Doesn't
don't know
help
any of the
actors and
characters
people's
from
talent work.
I don't know the characters from Star Wars to feed you a line for anything. I can do it as Cleveland Brown.
You literally could have asked me any question in the world. Just give me something to say, like, "Hey, Dom, does your mom still like Swerve?" And I could have answered, "Still big fan of Swerve, she is." Like, that's what I'm talking about.
You know, that impression did not make me want to enter into view the Star Wars series. I got to be honest.
That's fine. Watch it because there's lightsabers and Samuel L. Jackson, bro.
Well, that was, I did see the one with Billy D. Williams way back in the day. Lando there. That was whichever one was in the first three. I don't know. I saw
Empire
all of them.
Strikes Back. It was the second one. It's objectively the best Star Wars movie.
If you're stuck, right, with only one trilogy to watch, is it going to be the first three Star Wars, or is it going to be Rocky 1 through 3?
It's going to be Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and Captain America Civil War. And
you would take all of that over Rocky 1, 2, and 3?
Yes. I've never watched the third Rocky.
How have you not watched the third Rocky with Mr. T as Clubber Lang? You've never seen that one? You've never seen that?
I'm still a child, Mike. That's how.
I used to get upset with people not watching The Godfather, but it's long and it's detailed and all that sort of stuff, so I could see why. Rocky 3. I just thought that was like an American rite of passage. You got to watch, Rocky 3 and Rocky 4 to really be, an American.
Well, I guess I'm not a real American then.
Hulk Hogan is Thunder Lips in Rocky 3. I'm shocked by you not seeing that movie, but anyway, that's got nothing to do with professional wrestling, except a little bit to do with professional wrestling, because much like Freddie Prinze Jr., Sylvester Stallone was a big fan of wrestling. That's why Hulk Hogan ended up in the movie. That's why Terry Funk was in Over the Top. And was it Over the Top? Yeah, he was in Over the Top. He was in a bunch of movies, actually. There's a guy who's got his SAG membership right there. I just heard somebody else actually talking about that as well, too, that they got a role in a movie. And it was only like one thing. And they, I guess, got enough FaceTime on there to be vested. So that's been one thing that, John Morrison, I'm sure is one of those guys. I'm sure there's a lot of them that are based out of Southern California who do extra work and who do all that sort of stunt work and things like that. I mean, there are big time advantages, including, once you get old and you can't do all of these things anymore, the fact that you actually still have some insurance is a big deal. Let's get back to tonight, actually, before I get into the NXT review. AEW from the Chesapeake Employers Insurance Arena in Baltimore, the campus of UMBC in Catonsville, outside Baltimore in Baltimore County. This is where Ring of Honor ran most of their big shows. They did a lot of TV at like Du Burns Arena, but then they started using this building all of the time, especially during the pandemic. It's a nice building, easy to get to, good sound in it. So hopefully AEW, I assume they have it pretty packed. I didn't check the WrestleTix site, so Brian's got that information folded up in his pocket next to a handkerchief that he's blowing his nose into on the couch. If I can get those from him, I'll let you know. But long story short, Hangman Adam Page is going to be back this week, or at least he's expected to, after missing last week's show due to COVID-19. They are building up he and CM Punk towards Double or Nothing. The lineup for tonight's show, the Varsity Blondes are going to call out the House of Black. Hopefully, Julia is not just sitting there on the ring steps again, all upset. And hopefully these guys can try to get some revenge over the House of Black. The Blackpool Combat Club, Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson, and ROH Pure Champion Wheeler Yuta, who's also entered into the Best of the Super Juniors, facing off against the Butcher, the Blade, and Angelico. And Angelico's still on the roster, even though Jack Evans is no longer there. Wardlow against MJF's mystery opponent. And as he mentioned last week, MJF, that is, you can't teach that, which means it's got to be W. Morrissey. It's either that or Enzo. I guess you could do the sight gag where it's Enzo who comes out there. I don't know if that's exactly what you would want to do. They obviously have the working relationship with Impact, and they obviously have been feeding Wardlow some very large men, whether it be the Butcher, whether it be Lance Archer. Now it's going to be W. Morrissey. So no matter what happens, I have a feeling we're going to end with a Powerbomb Concerto, or whatever they're calling it there, the Powerbomb Symphony. Chris Jericho against Santana in a grudge match. I'm not 100% sold on this whole Jericho Appreciation Society. If I say that when Bryan's around, I'll get the, what? That thing. And it's just, I'm not sold on this yet. I'm not sold on Daniel Garcia being a sports entertainer. I mean, in a way, I kind of like it. It's kind of amusing. I don't know about this whole thing, but I really do like Santana and Ortiz and Eddie Kingston together. So if they're in the mix, I'm good with it. And Santana smacked around Chris Jericho on Friday night on Dynamite. He went out there trying to get some revenge, but was pulled away by security. Chris Jericho then cut a look, I know a lot of the show yesterday was jokes when it came to the whole crowd sweetening thing and things not being even. But did anybody hear the promo that aired on Friday, the very voiced over promo that was added into the show with Chris Jericho yelling at Santana? I don't know. Maybe it was just my ear was extra sensitive, but it was like, man, fix this somehow so it actually doesn't sound like he's in a box way after the fact, even though he is. But anyway, ROH Women's Champion Deonna Purrazzo against ROH Interim Women's Champion Mercedes Martinez to determine the undisputed champion. Be interesting to see what happens here. I have no prediction on a winner here. I would actually go with Deonna Purrazzo, but I have no idea if there's any contract status, if there's any, she's going to be traveling, doing some other things. She's going to be doing stuff for Impact or whatever it is. So I'm not sure exactly where she stands right now. But of the two, as great as Mercedes Martinez is, I would like to see Deonna Purrazzo again. If you're going to have the future, that's definitely your future, although Mercedes Martinez can be there to help teach a lot of their very young future. Jeff Hardy against Bobby Fish in a qualifying match for the Owen Hart Foundation men's tournament, as well as Ray Phoenix against Dante Martin in a qualifying match for the Owen Hart Foundation men's tournament. I don't know how you start this show. I'm a big proponent on like CM Punk or John Moxley or Bryan Danielson. They seem to give you the most energy to start a show, but looking at what they have here on this, I would tend to say that maybe I would leave them for the main event of the show and actually start this thing off with Ray Phoenix and Dante Martin. It is going to be very difficult to top that match as far as physicality goes. And unless something bizarre happens, I can't believe it won't be a really fun, good match. So there you go. That's the lineup for AEW tonight. Dynamite coming up at 10 o'clock or at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. It's normal time. Unlike 5 p.m. Rampage that'll be taking place on Friday. Speaking of AEW, Fight Forever to be available on PC with new footage being released. It's also going to be on consoles as well too. Evil Uno, without Stu Grayson, who is now gone, hosted a Twitch video on Wednesday and revealed more information about the game. He confirmed it will be called AEW Fight Forever, as Tony Khan had stated during the company's show in Pittsburgh last month. Uno also revealed that the game will be available on PC in addition to consoles. In-game footage of Chris Statlander wrestling Nyla Rose with Aubrey Edwards as referee was shown. Statlander's model in the game was as her Galaxy's Greatest Alien gimmick. They didn't have time to change everything up here. Previous in-game footage also featured Darby Allin, Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, Hikaru Shida, and Jungle Boy. According to a report from Fightful, the video game is expected to be released in September. The roster size is believed to be around 50 wrestlers. Everybody has been talking about this game. If you're a fan of video games, obviously, and a wrestling fan, there have been people that have been chomping at the bit for AEW to roll something out. It is possible that Owen Hart could be included in the game because of what is going on with the Owen Hart tournament and all that sort of stuff, but that is not set into stone. I guess it's far from it being set into stone, so there's a possibility of that, but obviously everybody else that's on the roster, I'm sure, is going to be loaded up and wants to be in the game. Speaking of games, the political games, Kane, Glenn Jacobs was unopposed in his Republican primary to win the mayoral election of Knox County. So I'm not sure who the Democrat that's going to be running, but no Republican would dare step up and face Kane. 25,000 votes, a little bit under that is what he was bringing in. The general election is August 4th. Will be running against the winner of the Democrat primary, Debbie Helsley. So Mayor Kane down there in Knoxville, the last time you saw him on TV, of course, was last week, 2 weeks ago with Bianca Belair when they were down into Knoxville. So Mayor Kane probably going to be picking up a second term here. Not to poop on the other ladies' picnic here, but, I mean, it's Knoxville. It's Kane. He's probably going to win. We're all winners when it's an NXT review, and we'll do that when we get back from break. Wrestling Observer Live.
Hey there, everyone. It's Denise Salcedo, and I am back with part 2 of my AEW Double or Nothing trivia. Let's play. Question number 1. True or false? Cody Rhodes has had a singles match on every edition of AEW Double or Nothing from 2019 through 2021. The answer is true. In 2019, he wrestled Dustin Rhodes. In 2020, he wrestled Lance Archer. And in 2021, he wrestled Anthony Ogogo. Question number 2. Who was not in the AEW Double or Nothing 2021 Casino Battle Royale? A. Wardlow.
Just wanted to let that play for a second. Mike Sempervive, Wrestling Observer Live. Bryan Alvarez not here today, but he will be back. For subscribers of WrestlingObserver.com, tonight Dave Meltzer, Wrestling Observer Radio, will probably come out in the wee hours of Thursday morning after Dave gets finished gathering up all the information taking place after tonight's Dynamite AEW show on TNT. So, yeah, hopefully the boss man's feeling a little bit better here. I know he is so brokenhearted, so downhearted right now that he cannot be with us to do take a little look at what happened last night on NXT. It was spring breaking NXT. They couldn't even do it in a location where somebody could have fallen into a pool. I thought that was the rule. With Spring Break, that's one thing that Nitro did better than anybody else. That's one thing you've got to hand to WCW. They knew how to do a spectacle at Club Lavella. That's where this should have taken place, or something that looked like Club Lavella. So somebody could have took a header into the pool. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. The only header we have in that building was Braun Breaker falling off that catbird seat, or the bird's nest, or whatever they call it, last week, splattered himself on the ground, and that led to this match with Joe Gacy that we've got coming up in the main event of this show. But it opened up with some skit. It opened up with Pretty Deadly, your new NXT Tag Team Champions, doing a extra campy skit from poolside, being goofy. They run down what's going to take place on the card and then jump into the pool. They've done this before for shows. Obviously, this is Pretty Deadly's first chance to do it. They come across as guys you want to punch in the face, and who guys that you want to see get slammed because they're such goofballs and they're so over the top. And that's a good thing when you're bad guys. They got into it a little bit with the Viking Raiders later on as they attempted to keep poking at the Creeds, but we'll get to that. First match of the show, it was a good one. Cameron Grimes defeated Solo Sikoa and Carmelo Hayes with Trick Williams to retain the NXT North American Championship. Sikoa had Carmelo Hayes up in a Samoan, I think it was going to give him the Samoan drop when Cameron Grimes came off the top rope, hit him with the cave-in double foot stomp. I hate that move. I've never liked that move, and I know he can pull it off and he makes it look pretty good, but there's something about that move that's visibly that just, I don't know what it is. And I know, look, if he's coming off the top rope at me, yes, he could kill me from any position with that, but I don't know. This happens later on, too, with Braun Breaker's spear. There's got to be a better way, but good match. Solo Sikoa got a loud chance to begin the thing. Carmelo Hayes is a star. He is an absolute star. We did get our, obligatory Holy S chant and the This is Awesome chant after there was Sikoa. Grimes hit Sikoa with a Hurricane Rana as Carmelo Hayes was what was it? Grimes used a Hurricane Rana on Sikoa while Grimes also was giving Hayes a superplex. Didn't look all that spectacular, but we did get the chant for it. And again, the match went on from a couple minutes after that. Long story short, Hayes, ends up getting knocked out of the picture. Sikoa pinned by Cameron Grimes. NXT Women's Champion Mandy Rose was then in a skit where she went to the tanning spa, which I think is the official tanning spa of NXT there, and got into the tanning bed. And then, of course, she sets it for only a couple minutes. She was on the phone with JC Jane and Gigi Dolan, and I'll meet you at the beach. I need to, since I'm already, incredibly dark, I need to just jump in the tanning bed for 15 minutes and then jump out of that before I go to the sunny beach. Makes complete sense, I guess. I'm not a 20-something-year-old girl, so maybe that's how it goes down there in Florida when you have natural sun outside and you've already got an incredible base stand. But that's besides the point. The whole thing was set up for the fact that Wendy Chu could go in there and somehow crank the timer up without anybody knowing, and Mandy Rose, I guess, just fell asleep in there because when she got up later on, she was burnt. Indy Hartwell and Duke Hudson, they had a moment. Indy was looking at her hand. There was no ring there. Then Duke Hudson walks in. They both stand. Duke kind of leans in. Indy says no. And they both go in different directions, and that was that. No Persia, no Dexter, no that they ran off. Maybe they're going to add that into the mix later on. We'll have to see. Roderick Strong talked to the Creed brothers and Ivy Nile backstage. Says he's taking over the diamond mine. Says he's all about it. They need to listen to him. The Creed brothers just kind of rolled their eyes, and that would build towards something a little bit later on. Nathan Frazier against Grayson Waller. These guys could be future members of the main WWE roster. I don't think there's any doubt that Grayson Waller will be. There is probably a doubt about Nathan Frazier. Is he big enough? Is he the kind of guy that they like? Even if they brought him up to the main roster, does he have a trajectory with how they treat guys his size who can move like him that's going to be better than Mustafa Ali, that's going to be better than Ricochet, that's going to be better than some of the people that they've had there? I'd like to think so, because the former Ben Carter is pretty damn awesome, and I really, really enjoyed this match up until the end. Physically, there's little that Frazier doesn't seem like he can do. He's absolutely incredible young guy. Grayson Waller's just a great bad guy, I think, a great heel. Again, punchable face, the whole gimmick, the whole act, charisma. He knows exactly who he is, and, was pretty good. Frazier went for a Phoenix Splash earlier on in the match, missed it, rolled through it, but was able to hit it a little bit later on when Andre Chase and Chase U, all of his students in the crowd, blew an air horn, which distracted Grayson Waller. He looked like he was going to crotch himself on the ropes, walked over to it, but then fell, hit himself throat first on the ropes, slung himself back, which put him in the position for Nathan Frazier to come off the top rope and deliver a perfect Phoenix Splash onto him for the victory. Then it was time for Fallon Henley. I know that's not Brian's girl to emphasize the name on, but I'll do it. Fallon Henley. She's a country girl, and even when her parents bought that bar, she made her keep made him keep the horse after they sold the family farm. That's apparently the story here with Fallon Henley. She likes to raise hell with Briggs and Jensen, and her family bought a bar at some point, and then they had to sell the family farm, but she had a horse named Luna, and she kept her horse named Luna, and there ain't nothing like riding a horse. That's what she says. Then there was a meeting between Santos Escobar and Tony D'Angelo. Every, mob movie you've ever seen, any ridiculous sit-down, parody of a mob movie you've ever seen, that's what this was. They actually have a little bit of detente there, and everything's kind of cool for a little bit. They go out, they don't want to get in each other's business, but they want to be in each other's business, and that's where that stood for the time being, as they both had a tense stare down and a handshake, and that was that for the time being. Viking Raiders backstage, they had an interview about the Creed brothers that was interrupted by Pretty Deadly, who, as I mentioned earlier, just kind of poked the bear a little bit on the Creed brothers, and when Viking Raiders bowed up, they kind of snuck away. So I'm not sure if the Viking Raiders are going to be sticking around. Not the worst idea in the world for them to be staying around there and trying to help out those other teams. I mean, they're not doing anything on the main roster anyway, and they don't really fit in any of the mix. When you look at the Street Profits, RK Bro, the Usos, they look like they've got that thing held down for quite some time. Plus, you got Alpha Academy as well, too. So they just don't fit in the mix. They're much better off being down there and trying to help some of these young teams get a little bit better. Joe Gacy in a promo said we should fear what happens tonight if he does not win the NXT Championship. He vowed to change the world. Well, you know what, folks? You got up and the sun came out, so you know how that worked out for him. Nikita Lyons and Cora Jade against Lash Legend and Natalya. Jade pinned Legend after Natty booted Legend in the face. Match was okay. It was there. It wasn't awful or anything like that. So Lyons did the deal where she did the split into a leg drop. Jade followed it up with a flying senton off the top rope, and then Jade got the pin over Legend. A vignette then with Tatum Paxley talking about her entrance into the breakout tournament. She's a power lifter. She does not have a horse named Luna, but she does have the name of Tatum Paxley, which Bryan Alvarez will over-enunciate on every single show from this point forward. JC Jane and Gigi Dolan, now that was their turn. They had went to the beach, okay? They went to the beach, and they left Mandy Rose there all burned up. They talk about sending her some aloe. She's going to be fine. They park in a tow-away zone where it says no parking, and they brag about how great of a spot it is, and then they go up to the beach, and they're sitting there for a minute, and then it's time to get up and take their clothes off and run into the water and frolic about. And the plus 65 NXT male viewership probably was very, very happy about that. It was almost Divas era-esque with them frolicking around out there. All we were missing was Trish Stratus pulling up with the ice cream truck, and maybe even Brock Lesnar out there F5ing a shark. Do you remember that one for SummerSlam? I think it was. It was good. But anyway, they're at the beach, and they're out there frolicking about when Wendy Chu and Roxanne Perez, Roxy, then decide to steal their stuff. And Roxy's not sure about this because, she's got some training to do before the Breakthrough tournament. But Wendy Chu, she doesn't have time for any of that stuff. She's in it for the funnies and the lulls. And they start stealing her stuff. They steal the car. They steal the shoes. They run down the sand and they throw the shoes out into the street. So Gigi and JC, that's part of the comedy. They have to walk across the hot sand. Ooh, ah, ah, ooh, ah, ah. Oh, those are my shoes? Those are our shoes. Hey, wait, where's the car? And there's no car. It wasn't awful, but it wasn't good. And it wasn't needed. I don't think it look, a lot of this, as it sounds, I can't work myself into a tizzy the way Brian does about some of these shows. From what I'm saying to you, would you get that fired up about this show? Odds are you didn't even watch this show. I'll make sure that the phone lines are open tomorrow for anybody that wants to yell at me about, how awesome this show was and not, giving my all and my effort about it. What can I tell you? The Creed brothers defeated the Viking Raiders. I believe everything the Creed brothers do. I love the Creed brothers. I hope they don't kill themselves or anybody else in the process, but when they're in there bumping and thumping with guys like the Viking Raiders, guys of their size, it really does mask some of the limitations, and obviously there's a lot at this point in their careers, a lot of the limitations with the Creeds. Long story short here, Roderick Strong ran out when the referee was distracted, hit Eric in the face with a knee, ran up on the apron as Eric was draped over the ropes. He was out of there, sliding Ishii lariat by Julius, and the victory was gotten for the Creed brothers, who then were upset with Roderick Strong for jumping into their match. Kaylee Ray debuts next week as part of the Breakout tournament. Briggs and Jensen are okay, apparently, with the medical staff. They worked a joke about masturbation in there. And Brooks, in about 6 weeks, is going to be okay again. And then the main event, Bron Breakker defeated Joe Gacy to retain the NXT championship. I like Joe Gacy, not in this character. I think there's a way you can tweak it and make him an effective member of the roster, although we'll have to see what happens. I wonder what his future is going to be, but it looks like there may be one, because after the match, after he stood tall, there were two shadowy figures dressed in black behind Bron Breakker as the show ended. And this show has ended too. We're going to go to break one last time, put a bow on this thing. We come back from break. Wrestling Observer Live.
B, Dustin Rhodes. C, Penta El Cero Miedo. D, all of the above. The correct answer is Wardlow. He was not in it because he was participating in the Stadium Stampede that year. Question number 3, true or false? Kenny Omega has had a singles match on every AEW Double or Nothing from 2019 through 2021. The answer is false. In 2019, he wrestled Jericho, but the following year, he was part of the Stadium Stampede, and then in 2021, he was in a triple threat against Orange Cassidy and Pac. Question number 4, true or false? Kenny Omega has main evented every AEW Double or Nothing pay-per-view between 2019 and 2021. And once again, the answer is false. He took part in the main events for 2019 and 2020, but for 2021, he was not in the Stadium Stampede match, which closed out the show. Question number 5. Name the 2 cities that have hosted an AEW Double or Nothing pay-per-view. There are only 2 answers, and those are Jacksonville, Florida, and Las Vegas, Nevada. Now that's officially a wrap for our AEW Double or Nothing trivia. Thank you guys so much for playing. I hope you guys had a good time. Other than that, enjoy the rest of Wrestling Observer Live.
Wrestling Observer Live.
Wrestling Observer Live with Bryan Alvarez and Mike Sempervive.
You're at
Byline Broadcasting Network.
Put the overlay on that. I was just going to be saying Wrestling Observer Live right here. But no, we had the announcer man do it. That was a terrible NXT review, wasn't it? I can't be asked. I cannot build up that much of excitement for this show. I mean, just can't. Oh, by the way, remember that thawing of relations between Legato and Tony D'Angelo's crew? Well, a little bit later on, just like they did to each other. That's how we ended up with a Legato de Fantasma. They went and kneed Tony D'Angelo's consigliere in the Cuyans and threw him into the back of a Blazer or an Escalade or whatever it was and drove off with him. So maybe they're holding him hostage. Maybe they're trying to convert him into a member of Legato. I guess we'll just have to stay tuned and watch out. I don't want to, though. I just don't. NXT, there are some good things on it, but it is even this big spring break-in show. I mean, we are so far away from what those takeover shows were, and if you love this show, God bless you, but it's certainly one you can miss. What doesn't look like you can miss it, Dynamite tonight, which obviously we had talked about a little bit earlier on. Coming up 8 p.m. on TNT, Wardlow against W. Morrissey, the two Owen Hart qualifying cup matches, and a whole lot more. Bryan Alvarez will be back with Dave Meltzer tonight for subscribers of WrestlingObserver.com, Wrestling Observer Radio, giving you the rundowns on everything that has been happening, including thoughts on NXT. Yep. Brian's going to have to get Dave thoughts on it, and that means he's going to have to give his, and I know he can't wait. So hopefully he's healthy and happy a little bit later on, and I hope you are as well, too. I shall talk to all of you again after a while.